Okay, back again with episode 25. We're back with some Highland League because last couple of episodes we've been away from it. I know Marcus was Highland League episode 23 off the top of my head, but the popular demand seems to be Highland League legends. We've got one in the building tonight. Neil Whyte, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for asking. It was a pleasure.
You've been mentioned a few times, a few different 11s. I've had a few people mention you, like so I've just mentioned you, people like Stephen and that, guys that I'm now working with. And I think somebody had also mentioned when I'd put up, I can't remember, I'd put up something in a Highland League group and it said, we need to get Neil Whyte involved.
Oh, right,
so,
okay.
Yeah, popular guy.
Sometimes.
You've listened to the podcast yourself, Neil, so you'll know that I always start off going right back. My question from the start is always, how good a football player were you as a kid, and what age did you realise you had a wee bit of potential?
I would have been involved in like school football right through from primary school, right through secondary school. I mean, like Stu Cameron, we were like for under 13s at high school, right through. So I was involved with school teams, involved in the boys' league.
Aye.
Again, through juniors, seniors, involved in all the selects here. At that time, there would have been a youth team at Elgin City, but you didn't really progress to it until you were probably past the seniors in the boys' league. I would have been involved in it when I was maybe still 15, 16 maybe. Again, would have been the younger set in that youth team at Elgin. Did maybe a season and then just kind of fell away from it, to be honest. At that time, was I ready for that kind of level? Probably not. No, if I'm being perfectly honest. Again, I just played football because I enjoyed it and liked playing. So whether I was playing for like Elgin would have been great at that time. I was happy playing my pals in the park kind of thing. Yeah. Which you've heard on a few of the came for all the time. It's just it's just something you didn't generally see these days. It's
normally they're making a good football player, Neil Kane.
And then I kind of got involved in the welfare when I was like 15. Played for Murray Social when I was 15 and had maybe 3 seasons there. Again, played with some guys that Murray Social were involved at Loss United.
Yeah.
Got asked to go down there on trial. I would have been, 17, 18 maybe when I... Well, again, no expectations.
Yep.
Go, give it a go. If it works out, fine. If it doesn't, I've tried.
Yes, aye.
Went there and just absolutely flourished with the guys that was there. I was probably the youngest of the group at Loss United at that time.
Right.
It was with a squad of maybe 18 guys. Maybe 12 of them would have been ex-Highland League.
Right.
And just stepped in for Highland League. Guys like Ronnie Dunbar, Neil Harvey, Benji himself, Bullet, Robbie Porter. And again, there was familiar guys like Ross McCarty was there, Paul McCarty was there. So it was a good mix of youth and experience, but again, halfway through the first season, like Drew Ross came down.
Aye.
The things he used to just tell you at training it was like gold dust. Again, but they all kept it so simple and just let you play.
Aye.
And so that first season, really enjoyed it. Second season, we kicked on and won like the junior league and won a heap of other trophies. At the end of that season, I was kind of muted to go to Elgin then, but I broke my foot in the last cup final.
Right.
It was my own fault, to be fair. I'd had a sore foot for like weeks, and I'd obviously playing through it, and just never thought, no, last cup final, we'll just won more games, they going to make any odds. I pretty much pulled up in the warm-up, ended up in plaster for like 12 weeks. So then again, I was going into the following season.
Right.
So again, by the time I came back for that injury, still at Loss United, stayed there until about Christmas time, around about that time. Got a phone call for Benji one Wednesday saying, Elgin have asked if you can go and help them out on Wednesday night. They're playing at Huntly. I was like, fine. He says, you'll probably just be sad, but I don't think you'll get any minutes, whatever. Again, I was an Elgin supporter lifelong, so I used to go to the games with my dad, so any chance that that was coming about, I jumped at it anyway.
Yeah.
Going through in the bus thinking, Chico was the manager at the time. Are you going to start? And I was like, and again, this is Huntly that just won 5 in the trot.
Yep.
And I'm like, this can't be right. Again, I was in for the start. I was again. There was a few familiar faces, like Ross was at Elgin by then, and Paul had obviously moved to Elgin by then. There was a couple of guys who had previously moved for Loss United were there as well.
Aye.
So it made it easy enough. Again, first 5 minutes, scored. I'm thinking,
this is easy.
We ended up obviously getting beat, and then the following week, I think I got the same phone call again. Can you come and give us a hand out? We're away at Devon Vale. I think we won the game 4-2. I scored again. I set up 2, and then, like say the following Saturday, it was like, we want you to sign. Well, there was no argument, none for me.
Yeah.
I was concerned that Loss United got what they were wanting as a figure, and I didn't care whatever that was. But as long as our parties were happy with it, I was happy with it. Again, then I was at Elgin.
Aye.
The only way I can describe it is, I always had the belief in my inability. Because of my physique, it probably went against me through going up through the levels. 110%, until I was kind of probably played in the welfare and in the juniors, because it does, whatever anybody says, it does toughen you up. Playing against grown men,
exactly.
16, 17, it's a different attitude.
I agree.
People are nae scared to knock you about.
Nope, not at all.
I don't know if so much of the younger generation you get that. So the games, again, that's where the games changed. There's no that physical element to it. If it would have been a bog standard film, it probably would be a sending off these days, to be honest. And that's just the way it has changed.
Yeah.
Probably for the better, some parts of it. But
and they playing like they're playing on the carpets that they're playing on these days. No,
on a pissing down on a Wednesday night away to Rothes in the middle of December, and it's just a mud pit.
Mud bath, aye.
But nobody batted an eyelid. You were there to play football, and it's just where it was.
Yeah, it's the making of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for whatever level I've played at, I've been lucky that I've never really had many bad injuries. I've had a few, but I've always had like prolonged runs in teams.
Aye.
Which again, you'll generally get on merit. If you're playing away, you should be getting picked.
I agree.
Again, when I first went to Elgin, I would have maybe played the first 10, 15 games. I was just like riding on the crest of a wave kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then for no reason, Chico just dropped me, never said nothing about it, turned up on the Saturday, and I was obviously getting to that point I was expecting to play, because again, previous performance was okay. Nothing, just, you're not playing. And I was fuming. Never said nothing on the Saturday. The Tuesday, like the manager's office used to be just as you came through the tunnel, you used to have a wee office on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
I was like banging the door, right, what's all this about? And he says, this is what it's about. I just want to see your reaction, as in, were you just happy to plod along? If I dropped you, you're happy just to sit on the bench. I wanted to see a reaction. I didn't think I'd stepped out another game for the majority of the time he was there.
Yeah, yeah. It's these little tests that you don't realise at the time. Yeah,
and I at the time I was, don't get wrong, fuming.
Yep.
But I'm not really a confrontational person. Most people think, it's rubbish when they played football against me generally.
Yeah.
But generally I'm not. but he just wanted the reaction to see if the chips are doing. And again, when you've got those kind of conditions or games maybe be going for you or whatever else, who you can rely on, those sort of things.
Yeah.
And it's not always just what happens on a football pitch, it's how you react off it as well.
That's it. Would you be the kind of player, Neil, that maybe in that situation, if you were dropped and somebody's on the pitch, you could say, you'd be in your head thinking, I'm a better player than him. I could do something that he can't. I
think majority of people when they're sitting on the bench watching a game, everybody thinks they're better than the people that's on the pitch.
Yep.
And if you didn't think that, you shouldn't be sitting on the bench. You shouldn't be there.
It's a great way to look at it.
I mean, you shouldn't be.
It's a great way to look at it.
And again, you should just take every game as it comes. You're only as good as your last game. You can't rely on what you did 5 games ago.
No.
Because it counts for nothing.
Yeah.
Again, so that attitude probably got like that the older I got. When I was younger, I was like just carefree. I just wanted to play football.
Aye.
I'm playing for Elgin. It was like my boyhood dream to play for Elgin. Money, I had no idea you even got paid when I went to Elgin. Chico kind of handed me like this envelope, that's your wages, and that's your sign on fee. And I was that naive. I didn't care what he was talking about. It wasn't haggled. It wasn't. It's never something I've ever done through the time I played in the Highland League.
Yeah.
The contract I signed at Forres when I first went there was the same contract I signed when I finished.
Aye.
Every time my contract came up, I would speak to other teams. I would let them know I'm speaking to other teams. But any time I signed it would just be like, same terms, fine, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I was happy with where I was at.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
Huge. Football and life, you're happy in your job, you'll never work a day in your life.
You're right. Aye.
It's mad what they say. Okay, that's fantastic. First question and answer to that, Neil, because you've took us right in. And do you I'm just trying to still scale it back a wee bit. Are you standing out maybe in your teenage years before you're going to juniors and things like that, compared to the rest?
I suppose in the boys' league environment, you must stand out to a point if you get picked for selects.
Aye.
That's why I always looked at it. When I was in those selects, I was probably the younger set out there. So I would generally say there was better players, and I would have been honest to say that there were.
Aye.
And it was the same when I went into the youth setup at Elgin. All those players, generally, I would have probably been, if you were picking it at 15, probably the latter of the 15.
Aye.
If you were going on ability.
I know what you're saying.
But then for the same token, out of that 15, I could probably count on one hand how many played even juniors, and even less for going on Highland League.
Yep.
So again, that comes down, there's different circumstances, but it comes down to attitude as well.
All day.
My attitude was if you work hard, you will get your just rewards.
Yep.
I say that to my kids all the time, and it's not just about sport, it's about everything in general.
Yep.
And I've always had that fierce competitive nature. I've got it in everything. It's not just...
Same here.
It's like if the kids are playing board games, I'm not just letting them win. It's just not happening. And again, I get it. Lots of sports, it's like about taking part because you want everybody to take part, but life's a competition.
It is.
I'll say to my kids, if you're going for a job interview, there's 3 people in the room, you're not just going to say the other 2, on you go, it's yours.
Yes.
Everything's competitive.
It
has to be, and that's what spurs people to do better all the time, and it should.
It's that mental attitude.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd say to my players all the time, we ran a thing a few weeks ago and we put into our chat, it was mental, technical, physical. Order them in what 3 you think are most important, and they're all giving us different answers, and it says you're all wrong. If you don't put mental first, you can't get the other 2. If your head's not right, you're not physically be there, you're not technically be there.
When it comes to the 3 things you said, for me personally, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm like 10 stone soaking wet.
Same here.
So you know what I mean. So if I'm going up physically against somebody who's much bigger, I came for a fact when I was playing. Nobody had a bigger desire than me to get that bar and have that bar. So if I was going for a 50-50, I was running through a brick wall. I wasn't caring what was in front of it. That was mine.
Yep.
And that was just a mental attitude.
Yep.
Because I knew, obviously, the physical side of it, I was not as physically strong, but I can compensate that by being mentally stronger.
Yep.
And again, I made it a purpose when I was playing, especially latterly, more so when I was at Forres rather than when I was at Elgin, because I was a bit more experienced. I was just a pest. I wanted to be a pest. If you were turning around and you were playing, I wanted to be in your face, because I knew when I was playing, if somebody was like that, it's the worst person in the world to play against.
Yep.
And again, I wanted to do it for 90 minutes.
Aye.
And I was able to do it. I had the fitness, and I generally I always had that. So
hate playing against busy players, you know, it's just they're everywhere, and it's just not particularly doing too much, but you can't get space around them. You're just impossible to work around, yeah.
Like I say, I mean, I've seen so many players with so much ability that just didn't have the work ethic to go with it.
Yeah.
And Mo, that was on a couple of weeks ago, mentioned like Dougie Green. I played with Dougie in like a under-20s junior select, and he had just been back for a trial with Dundee, and he literally was unplayable. I've never seen somebody play a game like that in the select game. He was unplayable, and I thought to myself, wow. And I grew up with Dougie. I knew him for the welfare and seen him doing the same thing right through the welfare, and he could have done anything in football. Yeah. But there's so many players you can say, Abdi kens him. Abdi's met them, Abdi's been at school with them, that I don't know, people will tell you this, you're that, their next thing. But unless you're doing it week in, week out, it counts for nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a myth. You know what I mean?
It is. You got to work on every part of your game.
I mean, ability-wise, I'll put my hands up, I was the best ability-wise. But I knew I could run all day. I literally, against anybody, I'd march them. And that was generally my attitude, was first and foremost, okay, 11 v 11. My first job was whoever I was up against was to nullify them. And then it was up to them to deal with what ID going the other way. Yeah. Then if you've got 11 players that do that, your team's got to be hard to beat week in, week out.
All day long.
Just a nightmare to play. It would be a nightmare to play against.
Yeah, and you've got 11 boys with the same mental attitude as well. You know, it's hard teams to play against. You know, excellent. Okay, number 2. Who's your football idol growing up, Neil?
Being a Dundee United supporter, probably Paul Sturrock. Okay, there wouldn't be many folk to probably say that.
Alan Main had him in his 11. We've had a wee bit of Luggy. Yeah. I'm just trying to remember his nickname there. Striker.
When I was younger, like going through the boys' league, I would have been playing as a striker. Okay. And I would have still been playing as a striker through the early part of going into the welfare. Then I was kind of moved to like wide right because I was awfully just quicker. And then it kind of, through most of my time at Elgin, I was played wide right. When I first went to Forres, I was wide right. Change of manager, I was actually put on the left. I had a bit of an argument with the manager at the time about playing on the left, because my left foot was literally for standing on at that time. But it actually made me a better player. Made me a much better player because I was forced to use my left foot.
That's what happens.
Whereas before, I could get a wobble with it, and they haven't. It was just for standing on. And then latterly, the older I got moved more into the middle, and it just I loved it. Yeah, I loved being involved in everything all the time. Whereas again on the wing, you're kind of more relying on people like getting you involved in the game.
I know what you mean.
Because you could be just running up down the line for 80 minutes and never really seeing the ball. Whereas in the middle, I was involved. Which I probably enjoyed more personally.
And we're not. You're playing in the middle before these fancy 4-3-3s. It's normally a 4-4-2.
Maybe you did anything else.
Playing against a 4-4-2.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and you're getting a good midfield battle against another 2. You know, and you've got half a chance as long as you and your centre midfield partner are up for it that day. You know, totally agree with you.
So that's how kind of Paul Sturrock would have been my idol when I was younger. Kenny Dalglish would have been the obvious in. Just for what he did for Liverpool and Scotland.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what team you supported, I'll be like Kenny Dalglish.
Yeah, it's true. It's a bit like Ollie McCoy these days. Doesn't matter what team you support. Abdi likes a bit of Ollie McCoy.
You're right, absolutely.
Good lad. Like, okay. So you kind of answered question 3 with question 1, but I want to kind of speak more about Elgin, kind of establishing yourself in the team and things, because you went through a couple of managers at Elgin.
I suppose you kind of, it happened kind of at Forres for a while as well. I suppose sometimes your face fits, I suppose, as a manager. You can be lucky, as in results, whatever else. I was lucky enough that when I first went to Elgin, obviously Chico was who signed me. Ronnie Dunbar was his assistant, who had been with at Loss United.
Okay, yeah.
So I was familiar with both of them, to be fair. And again, when I went there, it wasn't like I was sitting on the bench and trying to get games. For the trial games, I never really stepped out the team.
Yeah.
So it was just, and again, when you're new into a setup and you're new into the league, you're sitting fresh, nobody doesn't really cane you. I suppose that first season syndrome where nobody really canes you and you kind of get a free pass, really.
Aye, if you're saying, yeah.
But you still have to play well. Again, what I liked about the Elgin thing, and it was mentioned in one of the other podcasts, like Mo said, all my pals used to come down to the games. So again, they would come down and watch, and again, we'd be in the club after the game, be there till whatever time, then up to tune. It was just, that was just what you did.
Aye, that's your night out.
But my whole week revolved around, don't get me wrong, I was working, but it was kind of, it was just like a means to an end. It was secondary. There's nobody, when you get involved playing football, nobody wants to be a football player.
Yep.
There's no getting away for that. Like I say, I was lucky enough to play for Elgin, and if that had been the only team I played for, I'd have been more than happy.
Yeah.
And even if I'd only played one game, I would have been like, well, I've played for Elgin.
That's it.
I came. I mean,
yeah.
So
it's a lot of people, a lot of kids will get to never wanting to get into that stage and never get near it. So, you know, you talk about the 1% playing for like the Premier League. You're the 1% in Elgin that have played for Elgin. You know, that's kind of like scaling it down.
I think the good thing about that Elgin team was the majority of it was for Elgin.
Aye,
we had a sprinkle of guys for Inverness. There was Ains for Aberdeen as well, but 3/4 of it for Elgin. It's like Mo said, majorities were all training together. Again, if I haven't seen any of those guys for like years, I can bump into them in the street and it's just like being in the dressing room. Nothing changes.
Aye.
And I think that is the beauty of the Highland League.
Yep.
And that's not just with your team you're playing for, it's the teams you play against.
Aye.
Might not have seen players, could be in Aberdeen and shopping with missus and bump into somebody I've not seen for 10, 15 years, and it'd still be the football stories. Would you mind that game? And that's the great thing about the Highland League.
Aye.
And it is.
Do you think, I asked Mo the same question, do you think going into, obviously, you guys are going into changing your room at Elgin at a young age that's full of winners already. Do you think that helped you throughout your career being around these guys with these kind of mentality that at that time at Elgin it was win every game?
I think so. We had guys there that would pull no punches. So if you weren't pulling your weight at training, and you would certainly weren't pulling it on a Saturday, you were tell.
Yeah.
And again, guys wouldn't have thought twice about pinning it to the wall. If there was arguments, it happened. It happens in every dressing room.
Aye.
I think it would happen less and less now.
Yes,
but
it does.
You had to have the mentality that you were able to stand up for yourself.
Aye.
I mean, the first thing that somebody said to me when I walked into the dressing room at Elgin was, what the F are you doing here? And what do you want? What do you think you're good to here? You're not good enough. And it was just like, they were wanting to see your reaction and how you would react to it. My reaction was, well, it's got nothing to do with you. And then my first thought was, well, I'm showing you.
Aye.
And that's what you did.
That's what they want.
Aye, absolutely. And again, that's just as much for them, they can rely on you when it comes down to the chips are doing.
Yep.
Because that's what it comes down to. You're on it together.
Yep.
And that's what makes or breaks a team.
It does. It does. It's all these little things that folk didn't realise that didn't play the game or are involved in the game themselves. That
you can have like I said before, you can have 2 or 3 players that stand out week in, week out, but they might only do something every 5 minutes. So those guys that are doing it consistently
running all day,
what your average 7 out of 10.
Yep.
They're the ones that will make a team,
and they're the guys that'll see you through a game as well.
Absolutely.
You know, the ones that can be relied on, because you guys that are known for their flair or can go and get a moment of magic. A lot of these, and no offence to them, because there's a lot of them out there, but a lot of these guys will disappear for games on end. And when they produce, because they produce the moment of magic that's got the win, they're seen as the shining light for the next 5 games, and they can really do no wrong for them 5 games, you know.
Don't get me wrong, these are the players, even at a higher level, that people are coming to see because they're wanting to be entertained. But the why the game is new, how many actual wide players actually take somebody on new? It's not just short pass and interchangeable, but very rarely somebody's actually going and taking somebody on, hitting the byline and getting in the box. You just didn't see it.
Nope. No, nobody can set a crosser ball these days, and if they did know how to cross it, nobody can set a head a ball these days. So it's like it's a dying art. It's mad to see, Neil. Sorry, mate. Is that a bit better for you? Yeah. Okay. Okay. First World Cup memories, Neil. This is an interesting one because it lets me know roughly like
I'm going
where
to
your
say
football is.
1982 World Cup.
That is Spain. My dad was there.
Because he obviously played for Dundee United, but it would have been about that age. It would have been 82. Would have been my first. And again, because I supported Dundee United, which is my sister's fault, so she went to uni, and got at that time I was like an impressionable. Didn't really support anybody. My pal supported Aberdeen, which is or Rangers or Celtic.
Yep.
She came back for uni with this Dundee United top on, and I was hooked.
All right, okay.
And it was like
that's mad.
So I pitted against her. That's why I've had so many years of pain and heart. And
aye,
you can't change who you support. It's
no, you just had a good run at the late 80s, like.
But 82 would have been the first kind of, and I would have been logged into it. And I always remember when this is show me age, when we first got a video player, we got a 1974 like World Cup video. Right. I watched this video. I reckon how many times it must have worn the thing out.
Aye.
It was obviously like Cruyff and Beckenbauer and that.
Yep.
It was just, I was just amazed by it.
Yeah. You're probably like, hopefully there's people listening new here, like, because there was, I'm not trying to show your age or nothing, Neil, but a 1974 World Cup video would have probably been quite popular in amongst your age and probably a lot of people within Elgin and things like that. So I'm hoping people hearing that think, I had that video, you know, because it's...
So it's just when you say like, so the first thing I would be aware of would have been 1982, but I was thinking about 1974 because of that video, because I watched it so much.
Yeah, madness. Okay, right, my favourite 2 questions for ex-footballers. Who's the best player you've played with in your career?
Played with Russell Mackay certainly would be up there. Neef definitely would be up there.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when I played in the right wing and he played behind me. I mean, he was forever talking. It was like I had a safety blanket. I could pretty much go forward and do whatever I wanted. Getting in it, he was there. So in that sense, Kyle Scott would be up there. That would play with Forres. Fantastic football player. Could play anywhere.
I just find it weird because it was my sister's head teacher at school.
Well, again, when he came to Forres, obviously, again, as a P teacher, and nobody had really heard of him. And he came to training and was just like, "Faz this boy." And I mean, he could play centre half, didn't look at a place. I played centre midfield with him. He could do anything he wanted. He could play up front. Wow. I've got Gordon Conley as well. When I first went to Forres, him and Maxey that were there, both played at a higher level, but some of the things they did were just I
think Gordon Conley, when we've had best played against, I think he's had about 3 or 4 mentions. I think John Teasdale mentioned him as the best player he's played against.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
The ball just stuck to him.
Yeah.
And it was nothing. It was near like he'd be running away from people, or it was just quick 1-2s. It was just such a busy. His touch was good. I could lay my hat on 10, 20 players, really, to be honest. For different things.
Absolutely.
But they gave me, whether it's been helped me when I've first got into a team or just their ability.
Yeah, yeah.
Charlie Brown may be up here just for his goal scoring.
Yeah.
It pains me to say it. But his goal scoring was, I mean, for the first few seasons I was at Forres, it was just, you could hit in and it was going in.
Absolute unit of a boy. Yeah.
Lazy, but he could score goals.
Proper number 9 though.
Aye.
A proper number 9.
Again, he was small in stature, but he was lightning quick.
Yep.
Would just leave people for dead. And if you gave him half a yard, he was gone.
For my memory as well, is he was small, but he was very strong for his size.
You do, you didn't knock him off.
Yeah, very strong for his size.
I think his strongest muscle would have been his tongue, though.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's flip side the question, Neil. Who's the best player you've played with? Played against. Sorry.
I would have said when I played on the wing, would have been probably Dave Whyte, play for Cove. It was just as hard as nails.
Yeah.
I remember I played the cup final at Huntly, and he absolutely, hit me in the first 5 minutes. I could barely walk after the first 5 minutes, and every game was kind of like that.
Okay.
Stevie King that played for Keith, another in, very difficult, very, very good. Midfield, probably when I played centrally, probably there were guys like Eddie Copeland, Tommy Wilson, Graham Park, Darren Still. We've had just battles, but they were proper
battles.
old, but they were proper old school. But they were boys that could play. Could get a bit of dig, but they could play. And for the same token, after the game was finished, you take a beer, take a chat. You kick each other for 90 minutes, but it's forgotten when you get into after the game, and that's the way it should be.
Exactly.
A lot of times it's nay, but
just kind of, I didn't give this one before we came on. Is there anyone that sticks to you in your head as probably the hardest player you came up against, Neil?
Dave Moreland.
We've had him as
that first game at Huntly. I remember standing at a corner and thinking, "Oh my God!" Well, I was just like, "Oh my!" I'd heard plenty about him.
Aye.
And even beforehand, people had said, "Just if you see him come charging towards you, just beware." But again, hard but fair.
Aye.
There was no malice in him at all.
Yeah, good play as well.
He was a winner. As were every single one of those guys I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's what made them difficult to play against.
That's it. It's that mentality we go back to again. You know, it's half the battle. You know, you can have decent ability, you can have decent physique, but if you've got top level mentality, it'll get you a long way.
A lot of those guys that I mentioned should have probably played higher, I would have said.
Yeah. Whether
they were comfortable where they were at in circumstances. And I suppose it was about opinions, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
I might think somebody's great, somebody else doesn't. It's the same. Your coach,
so
you might think this player should be playing this week. Your assistant might not.
Yeah,
it's what it's about, isn't
it?
There's no right and wrong. It's no.
And it's weird. You can look at the same player and you might have similar ideas, but you'll see totally different things in a player. And one years will rate him, one year's winner rate him, or you both see something, but you can't quite put your finger on it, and it's like
again, as long as you can back it up and you justify for your reasoning for it, either for or against, then like I say, you can justify it. Yeah,
this is it. I'm just going to pause now for a wee ad break. I'll just give Ryan a couple of seconds to do this. The Football Journals is partnered up with the Football Hub. Si over at the Football Hub does great work, bringing coaches drills, seminars, thousands of hours worth of coaching resources, knowledge. His TikTok videos are great. You can find Si and the guys over at the Football Hub at the-football-hub.org. That's the-football-hub.org. Check them over. They're offering a 30-day free trial. Honestly, I've checked them out myself. I've been using a couple of the drills in my own sessions. The guys are unbelievable. Give them a shout. Si's always on offer as well to offer personal advice as well as a 30-day free trial. They offer individual packages for clubs, players, coaches, clubs. They'll offer grassroots club plans, pro club plans, a lot. Give them a check out, guys. So, leaving Elgin and joining Forres, can you talk me through, were you headhunted for Elgin? What was the process?
No. I was quite bitter when I left Elgin, to be fair. So we would have been the second season in the third division. So I was out of contract. I wasn't particularly enjoying my football, if I'm being honest. I was just as much to do with a clash with the manager as anything else. I can look back on it now, and actually he made me a better player for it, because there was a game where we were playing it like that. I think it was Albion Rovers. Now, I'd never played in the centre midfield. And before the game he said, you're going to play centre midfield. You go left, you go right, you don't cross the halfway line. If you cross the halfway line, I'm going to take you off. That was his motivational speech. He did take me off at half time, to be fair, for crossing the halfway line. I played a few more games in the middle then as well. And again, I can look back on it knowing it did make me a better player. But at that time, I was coming out of contract, and I approached him and they'd said they wanted to sign me. I says, look, if I'm not going to be playing a lot of games, or you think I'm going to be a fringe player, I'm quite happy to walk away. I've enjoyed my time here. And if that's going to be the case, I've got no problem. I signed a contract on the Saturday, and on the Sunday I had 7-8 high league managers phone me and say, well, here you're up for transfer, we'd like to speak to you. I'm like, well, I'm not really sure where this has come from. I've just signed a new contract. Hence then I phoned the manager at the time. Oh, well, everybody's got a price, you're more than welcome to stay. Well, for me that was nah. Loyalty's a two-way thing as far as I'm concerned. So I then went to speak to various clubs. At that time I'd just moved into, like I said, Newhouse and Elgin, things like that. Spoke to Forres. I liked the fit. Again, at that time Gordon Conley was the manager. Liked what he said, liked what he was pushing us and where he wanted to go and where he seen me playing. And to be honest, apart from the first training session, because I think we played them in a pre-season game, and I thought, oh well, it was a bit fiery, and I was thinking, I'm not sure how this training session is going to go when I first went through, but for day one, it was absolutely spot on. The guy's going to be nicer. Again, there was a few familiar faces when I first went there, like Stu Cameron was at Forres then, Roy Main was there at the time, Pete Maguire still there, but I was never regretted at all. Like I say, did I ever want to leave Elgin? No. I'd been there for 6 seasons, enjoyed them all. Did I see myself ever playing anywhere else? No. I'd actually see myself probably see my time out in testimonial and all that at Elgin, if I'm being honest. The third division, again, I wanted to get a try, because my thing is, try it. If you don't like it, well, at least you've tried it.
Exactly.
You should always want to play at the best level you can, and what fits for you. Again, steep learning curve. For Highland League to third division, huge learning curve. And anybody in that first year would have said exactly the same thing. Taking a lot of experienced guys, but...
Am I right in thinking did you play in Elgin's last ever game in the Highland League?
Aye. And their infamous cup final at Keith. Aye. It was mentioned by Mo, obviously that game was a hard one to take. But then the new manager was coming in at Elgin at that time. First impressions, well, he walked into the dressing room after that cup final, and you just remember we've just been beaten 4-3 after being 3-1 up. And the first thing he said was, I want to keep any of yous. Yous none of yous are worth, and know what you want. It's a first impression. So
not at all. No,
I kind of went, first impressions are a big thing for me. Very rarely change, or people's perceptions, how I take them, very rarely change after a first impression. So I kind of was off on the wrong foot even before I'd even kicked the bar for the guy, to be fair.
Aye.
Again, like I say, I can look back and say that there were certain things in training and attitudes, because his attitude was, your training should be as if it's your last game. So I'm not wanting, like so lots of people were like, I'm not wanting tackles or whatever. It was none of that. It was, everything was full contact, full eye. And I went to be that. I took that on for the rest of my career. I took that on all the time at training, which probably didn't help me sometimes because I ended up with burst heads and whatever else through training. But his motto was you train like you play. So then when you get to the Saturday, you're not having to switch from one mode to the next. You're on it all the time.
All the time, yeah.
It does make a difference. But like I say, when I went to Forres, that first season, I think we maybe won, I think the Highland League Cup, which would have been retaining it for the season before.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to win trophies, because effectively everybody likes winning trophies. Because it's a day out.
Yeah,
it's kind of, it's just hell. So again, for the time I was at Forres, well, I was in with a shout most times with the cups. Luckily enough, we did win the league. I didn't have a bad word to say about that club at all.
No.
Hence why I stayed there for nearly 12 seasons.
Yep.
But I always had a good core of guys.
Aye, it's key.
And if anybody came in, they never really, I was fitted in. You know, where I was taking guys on loan for Carley, Ross County, like so Graham Shinney came in.
Yeah.
Just fitted in, no problem. Embraced the whole situation. Could have been quite easy for him to be sulking because he's came for Carley.
Yep.
Neta.
Can I just ask Neil, how big a part of Forres was Charlie Riley for you? Because obviously he was there a long time.
He would have been, and there would have been that continuity, because I suppose the spine of that team probably would have stayed together for 8-9 seasons. Yeah, probably. So a good chunk of those guys, and again, none of them wanted to leave because it was a good dressing room.
Yeah,
Abdi was happy.
It's key.
So it spoke a lot. Probably initially, more so kind of Boogle, Gordon Winton. Charlie would have been his assistant to start with. So for the first maybe 3 or 4 seasons, when Boogle was there, well, it was Boogle actually made me captain.
Yep.
And when they first made me captain, the chairman wanted to take it off me because he thought it was actually affecting how I played.
Is that right?
Aye.
Wow.
And I said, well, take the captaincy off me if you want, but you will see me playing again. Because I took it as a huge honour to be a captain at any side I was in.
Absolutely.
And I embraced it. But no, as a club, they couldn't do enough for you. And that's not just on the pitch.
Yeah.
Where I was interested in what your family and that was doing.
Yep.
If there was issues there.
I like that.
I can, and it does make a huge difference. Because you are still part-time.
And they've always been a very well-run club as well.
Aye,
you know,
definitely.
Right down to their youth setup and that, they're always.
Oh, I mean, the youth setup's is fantastic.
Yeah.
They've got right down to under 12s, might be even younger, I think.
Yeah, they have got younger. I'm good pals with, well, I'm not good pals with him, but I'm pals with Alan Frisco.
Aye.
And I think they do run down to maybe 10s or 8s, I'm not too sure. So it says enough, you know. He's talking 20 years ago, you would have had your 18s, your 16s, and that'd be probably about it.
And the thing is, it's trying to get players coming through, even if you get one, two, even if it's just a squad player at first until they find their feet. Because then but you're getting all these kids still the dream of, because it is still a dream. I want to play for the first team. And as it should be.
Yep.
And they're generally stepping up. But I suppose those standards are getting tougher and tougher to keep. I suppose there's finances and it's harder and harder to keep that going.
That's it. It's even like I noticed at Elgin myself, like when you're speaking about, like, so when you're coming through, you've got yourself, you've got Paul McCarty, you've got Ross McCarty, you've got Mo, you've got all these guys that go on and play a good amount of games for Elgin. These days you've got maybe Brian Cameron's only one, and that's for the last 15 years, you know.
Aye.
You've got guys that are breaking in now and again. Like I'm a big fan of Finn Allen, who's coming through.
Absolutely.
And I hope Finn goes on and gets a. But they've just let go of like Samati Jameson, who was another one who's coming through. Forrest have actually benefited and got him. But it's get for the last maybe 10, 15 years at Elgin, it's been so rare for boys coming through. But I don't see, is it the same at likes of Forrest? Do they get much? I don't see it much at Highland League level. What
I would think, well, I'm just thinking for the time I was there, we would have had a couple coming through. But again, because you're such a settled team, difficult for a young player, unless they're really showing something really special, to come in and dislodge somebody that's within that circle, I suppose, if you want to call it. What I mean? We did take a couple of young greens that had been at Cully when they were really young and came in and played a few games. But again, it's trying to keep that, I suppose, enthusiasm for them to keep at it, keep motivated. If you're not necessarily playing all the time.
Did you ever play with the Fraser twins?
I did. I was there when the first came in. About both of them had even the very first training session. I couldn't tell the difference between the only difference. Even halfway through the season, the only reason I could tell the difference when they had their different Fitba boots on. I can tell the difference now. But for long enough, I still, even on the pitch, if they both had played centre forward or something, I wouldn't have had a clue. The fact that one played at the back and one played up top made life a bit easier.
But for when they were really young, they should have again played at a much higher level.
And I'm not just talking like.
I think one was on trial at Newcastle, possibly.
There was same thing. I'd heard similar. They could have done anything they wanted. Again, both really unlucky with injury.
Yes,
and the timing of their injury.
Yeah. Both nice lads as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, cracking lads.
On the pitch, both just absolute warriors. Just again run through a brick wall.
Yep.
Again, but love their football. Off the pitch, you'll never meet nicer guys.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Same as their mum and dad, absolutely. Great people came out. I mean,
that's
but
good.
when they first came into the club, even the first training session was like, what have we got here? Because I'd never heard them locally before, because you generally do hear and then the first training was like, oh, you've got to be, it's like, Charlie, you've got to be signing this, boys. You've got to be, And then the first game I was like, you've got to be getting them signed up quick. Because and they didn't hang about, to be fair. Like I say, that season that Lee hurt his knee, it was nothing. We were playing indoor football at Forres. And he ended up far awkward, going on a bench, and ending up, I think, like pretty much dislocating his kneecap and splitting his kneecap. I would have thought in that season, if he had stayed fit, he wouldn't have stayed at Forres. And I didn't necessarily mean Elgin. I would have meant up the leagues.
Yeah.
And again, Carly would have been at Andros County. I'm sure would have been probably looking at both of them.
Definitely.
Especially kind of the budgets kind of they've got, they're on their doorstep. Be silly not to be looking at them if you came what I mean. And I'm sure there would have been a lot bigger clubs looking at them at that point.
Because I just mind there was a weird thing because they're my age. And then you also had the Archibald twins. And it was just like there was these two sets of twins.
I came from nowhere.
Came from nowhere, and they were all brilliant at football, you know. And I do remind that.
Like you say, twins are rare enough as it is, but for them both to be playing football,
and both to be brilliant, you know, it's unheard of. Okay, just kind of going on mechanics. Is there any season, because you had quite 12 seasons, you're saying, is there any kind of particular seasons you felt that was the kind of pinnacle of your Forest? You thought this is the best squad we've had here at this point? Because there's always a high point and a low point with it.
A high point, it has to be winning a league.
Yeah. Was that the best squad you played in at Forest?
I didn't think so, actually.
No? Wow, okay.
I think for different reasons, we would have had squads where probably would have had better individual players.
Right.
And again, if you were looking at other teams in the league, they would have had when you want to sign them, if that makes sense. The season that we played Dungeon in the Scottish Cup obviously was a huge one for me personally.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't get any better for me. But what I couldn't fathom is when we went down to play, again, I'm used to sitting behind the goals, certain places, and when we were playing, I'm thinking, how can all these Dungeons and Sports be giving me so much abuse? I support Dungeons. But again, for that game, it wasn't until, like I said, obviously you play pre-season games against Premier League teams.
Yeah.
Charlie Miller in that game was one of the best players that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He was untouchable and he just seemed to glide about the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not like he looked quick or anything, but he was phenomenal.
It's next level.
Oh, he was and then that's when people say, oh, could you play at whatever level? When you see he would have still been a good Premier League player, but not that upper level, if you came what I mean.
Yep.
So you think, well, if that's the level you've got to achieve, it's just...
It's crazy, isn't it?
And that's when people say you've got a certain... People are kind of born with it.
Aye.
I really do think that.
Yeah.
I think more so now sometimes it can be coached out them.
Well, it's funny you say that, right? And I'm going to name drop someone here, but I coach Ricky Foster's son, Ollie, and if Ollie doesn't become a footballer in the next 10 years, I'll be shocked. Because, as you say, I think he's just born with it. His dad was obviously born with it and played at a very high level, a very good football player, and I think it's been passed on, because the kid's an athlete. First and
foremost you have to be these days, to be fair.
Absolute athlete, technically very good, and mentally switched on as well.
I think what's changed now is when maybe I was at school, if you were 15, 16, you could slip through the net.
Yes, aye.
Nobody now it's
very rare. Very rare.
Even by the age of 12, 13, if they're not really signed up by somebody, it's very rare that they've not even been picked up. School fit was probably a lesser thing now. It's probably more a thing.
It's not a thing.
I didn't think so.
I coached a school team last year and I loved my school team. Really enjoyed the
because
kids.
They're so involved, most of them are involved with, like you say, Ross County, Elgin.
That's it.
They're not going to get injured. They've got a game on the Sunday.
Boys League's the best thing for them.
Oh, 100%.
Boys League is the best fit you can get locally if you're not playing for a club. You'd agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
The amount of players that's came through that Boys League in the last...
silly. It's absolutely nuts. I love them today, just actually look back the years and see how many boys actually made it to Highland League level, because you're probably talking hundreds.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. And there'll be a lot of players that folk probably haven't realised they've probably played Highland League that came through the Boys League.
Exactly, yeah. No, that's it. Just checking what time we've got, Ryan.
We're currently on 55 minutes, but we did have 5 minutes before we started, so 15.
Okay, no worries. Okay. Yep. Sorry, I keep losing it. Right. In your... roughly, how many games do you reckon you played in your career, Neil?
I've absolutely no idea. People do ask me how many. Well, I had 6 seasons at Elgin and I had 12 at Forres. For those seasons, I had a couple of injuries that kept me for a while at Elgin. Not overly long. I had a bad injury at Forres that probably kept me for about 4 months or whatever. Other than that, I pretty much played week on week, and that's where I can. I've been lucky in that sense.
So we're talking at least 400 or 500 games. Yeah.
I've no idea. Like I say, I've no idea. If somebody said how many goals have you scored or how many games you played, it's not something I would actually ever.
So I'm not going to ask you how many goals you've scored, but what do you reckon's the best goal you've scored?
Easily the goal I scored at Cove playing for Forres.
Okay.
The year we won the league.
Talk us through it.
It would have been on the far left-hand side of the pitch, maybe, I'll say 30 yards out. Somebody that was probably playing, I'll say it was 20 yards or 18, and you're just saying it's further out. I was out by the touchline. At that time, Cove were still playing in their small pitch.
Aye.
There was a thing of bodies, the bar bounced up, and I just hit it. Left foot. As soon as I hit it, I knew it was in.
Aye. One of them.
It was just one of them.
Yeah.
Quite sweet, and it's obviously left foot. It doesn't happen often. It just went straight in the top corner, the far left top corner. How I did it, I have no idea. I could have probably stood there when a 100-foot buzz and never done it again.
Aye,
by far. Either that or we were playing at Dalbeattie Star in a Scottish Cup replay. on a Monday. And
Monday, wow.
it was the underlying aim for that game was the pitch was right next to a school. So as you're running the changing rooms, you're running past all the school kids, and it was at lunchtime, so I had no lights.
Right.
And all these kids spitting on you and throwing bottles, and I was like, "What are we coming to here?" It's just what it was. I ended up. It was been late on in the game. I think we were 1-0 up, and maybe a couple of minutes to go. I broke down the right. I was playing centre midfield. I broke down the right. Beat a couple of players, and just as the keeper came out, I just dinked it, and it just went. Again, I could have done it 100 times. I wouldn't have done it. Just perfect. Lobbed the keeper. Took forever to come down. Just bounced in the goal line and went in. That would be the two that would stand out for me.
Great. Awesome. So I'm not going to ask you how many goals, but somebody on one of the Highland League group asked, do you know maybe what ratio of headed goals you scored compared to like all your goals? Because people I've been speaking to reckon that you probably scored a lot with your head. Like, I
would have scored a lot in my head. Certainly more so, I would have probably said that Elgin, just because we used to have like a corner set up that we would play it to the near post, and I would be the first person to try and either flick it on or put it to the goals.
Okay.
I must have, people just didn't have caught on to it, and I must have scored, I reckon, how many off it? I was like, well, keep doing it.
Working,
just,
aye.
I don't know. I'll be honest, it's not something I ever really thought about.
Mm-hmm.
I probably had a reasonable leap, I suppose. I had that determination probably to put my head probably sometimes where I probably shouldn't have. Aye. Again, ratio-wise, I reckon.
No clue. How many concussions do you reckon you've had in your career?
Probably more than goals. A lot.
Aye.
A lot.
Is there any that stick out? Any particularly nasty thing you've came up against that you think?
I mean, most of them have been just generally two guys going for a header, and it's just somebody's got there quicker than
I had one last night, on my ear. I'm pretty sure I was concussed. Like,
one of the worst things I had was actually when I was at school.
All right, wow.
And actually, I didn't actually realise I was concussed. I knew I'd got a knock in the head when I was playing for the school team, and I literally can't remember going home in the bus.
Aye.
I can remember getting home to my house and just being sick, and I literally stayed in my bed, and I just took it to be, I didn't take it to be concussion. It wasn't until obviously you learn later on.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the other worst thing was probably, I think we were playing Fort William in a midweek game, and I went in for a sling tackle, never thought nothing of it, really wet greasy pitch, slid off the pitch and cracked my head off into the concrete post. Ended up in A&E with like 12 stitches down my forehead.
Oh no.
So
wasn't even a player, like just a
post.
It
was just one of them. Again, I didn't actually realise I'd done it.
Aye.
I realised I'd knocked the post, but I never thought nothing of it. It wasn't until the physio came on, it's like, oh, and then you put your hand down and it's like covered in blood, and you're like, obviously it looks a lot worse than it is.
Aye.
But, I never had the looks anyway, so it wouldn't have been.
Okay. Right. I'm going to, before we get in your 11, I've just got a couple more questions.
Yeah,
Dundee United testimonial?
Probably one of these things that probably wouldn't happen that often these days, because I'm going to say bigger teams, most people are listening are probably going to say they're not a big team that get it.
They are a big team.
They just didn't, or I don't know if it's a financial thing, are now willing to send teams up. I don't know. You very rarely see it.
Yeah.
I was just delighted that at that time, obviously my testimonial committee approached them. They did ask me who I wanted to play. That was the obvious. And they agreed. There was no hesitation for them, to be fair.
Yeah.
And again, there were some good young players at that time playing for them. And again, they're trying to make a name for themselves.
That's it.
It could have been anybody that was wearing that Dundee United strip, to be honest. I was not. It was just, to be fair, it was an honour for them. It's one to send up a team, and it was an honour to get a testimonial, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of thing you look for. It's nice to get, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But, and it was appreciated. But I know, I was for family, friends and nothing else, or people that knew me for football. There was just lots of people who had turned out to come and watch and things like
That's
that.
nice, yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah.
It was a nice occasion.
Aye, brilliant. Okay, I'm trying to figure out 20-year career in football, Neil.
It would be if I was kind of counting for the likes of Loss United to the time I stopped playing at Forres, it would have been 20 years. What
would you consider your proudest achievement in that 20-year career?
I'm quite proud of the fact that I've got every Highland League winners medal.
Yep.
I've got a full set.
Yep.
Took a long time to get it, but it would still be the Highland League winners. Winning the league would be the biggest thing for me.
It's kind of a rare thing these days.
Well, the way I look at it is, it's not just the Highland League. Whoever wins any league is the best team.
Yep.
Regardless if people say you play this or you play that, the team that is at top after 30 games or whatever is the best team. End of. And we were.
Yep.
I've been involved in teams that I would have personally said were maybe better teams. But for that Forest team we had that year, we maybe only used a core 15. That same 11 pretty much picked itself week in, week out. And we got to a stage there, it was like between ourselves, Cove, for most of the season. I think we beat Cove in the home game, it would have been about October time. See, after we beat them at home, every home game from then on, it was like we were starting 2-0 up.
Right.
We just went out and just, whether it was the way we played and people could not deal with it, which a lot of it was, because people said you just played a lot of long ball.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to you to negate it. You have to combat it. If we score goals out of it, then that's how we go.
Yeah.
We just ran our teams, I'll be honest. There was plenty of games that we got Sahanuto that we probably shouldn't have, and you ride your luck. I think any of them would have been, we're away to Buckingham, we were down to 10 men. I think we scored like 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to win 2-1.
Yeah.
And again, that was guys that had came off the bench, hadn't played many games, and just scored a worldie, beat like 4 players, and that's what happens, and that's what wins your leagues.
It is, aye.
And again, nobody can take it away. This is the one thing, that's what I like about it, and people say, oh, well, you weren't that good. Well, we were. We were that good a team.
Yeah.
So that'll be my proudest moment, definitely.
That's a great answer, because you kind of summed up everything kind of perfectly. Yeah, I think that ties in a good career for you.
100%. It was like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
I would have been, 37, 38 maybe when we won the league. For me, I was thinking about retiring anyway. I would have still probably been one of the fitter players at the club. But you can't go on forever.
No.
And I thought I would rather go when it suits me rather than somebody else make that decision.
Yeah.
And I would have got that if I had been not playing many games. I was playing them. I was still playing week in, week out. But I thought, well, if you're going to go at the top,
absolutely,
that's the way I looked at it. And then Sod's Law, they draw Rangers in the Scottish Cup the following season. But still.
No, I still went out in a high, massive
absolutely.
high.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay, 111 time. I'll read through it and we'll pick some names out. Some good names in here. Martin Perret in goals. You've got right to left back of Neefy, Paul Bradshaw, Graham Grant and Don McVicker. Right to left in your midfield of Stewie Cameron, Russell Mackay, Gordon Conley and Kyle Scott. And up front you've got Ian Polworth and Charlie Brown. The first name I'm going to pick out, we've had quite a few mentions of Neefy, how good he was on previous, and there's no denying Neefy was good, but I've never had a mention of Paul Bradshaw or Graham Grant before.
Again, I picked the 11 on. There's lots of guys I've played with that have been fantastic players.
Yep.
But I've picked it on what they were at the time when I've played with them, if that makes sense. For the time I was at Forest, for the 12 years, Grappies would have been there for a good chunk of it. A good 8 years. He left to go to Huntly and came back, but he was Mr. Consistent. You were getting week in, week out. There was no frills. Social convener. He liked a good night out. But again, he was a better football player than he probably got credit for.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll hear that a lot about a lot of people, because again, it's about opinions.
Yeah.
But nah, you could, if the Chips were doing or you were wanting somebody in your corner, he would always be same as Paul Bradshaw. I first came across Paul when I was playing at Elgin, and he would have been playing for Ross County as a striker. He was only 16, and at that time he was touting, and he was going doing like at the Man United and places like that at 16 as a striker.
Mm-hmm.
And then latterly came to Forres as a centre half. Now, he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. He was quite kept himself to himself. I got on with him like a house on fire.
Yeah.
Again, he would be quite opinionated, and it was his way, or we batted heads, but there was a mutual respect there.
Yeah.
Fantastic football player.
Aye.
He could just ping a ball for centre half. He could shell things 40 yards, just effortless.
Yeah.
Again, he would certainly be one of the guys in that team that probably played at a higher level, but should have been at a higher level and stayed at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever those circumstances that have caused that he has now, but it certainly wasn't through his ability as a football player.
Yeah.
He was an elegant centre half. He was big, he was strong, and he could play.
He could
really play because he'd been up front and things like that. But wasn't afraid to do a Cruyff turn in the 6-yard box. So that sort of thing. Manager would be pulling his hair out, but fantastic football player.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Stewie Cameron.
Wonder left peg.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've known Stu since we played in under-13s at Elgin High School and went right through the high school teams, again, boys league.
Mm-hmm. Is it surreal for you seeing the level you've both got to? Or did
it's a bit surreal for me because I never thought I would get the level I played at. Never for Stu, because I thought Stu was always a fantastic football player, even at 13-year-old.
Yeah.
He stood out a mile. Again, quiet. Just did his talking on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Again, at that stage, he was a left winger. And that's how I put him in my team as a left winger, because he had to be in there.
Yeah.
Probably primarily played in Hindley more as a left back.
Aye.
But go up and do all day. That first, there was like maybe 2 or 3 seasons, it was like me on the right, Mikey Green in the middle, and Stu on the left. The three of us just had free reign at Elgin. It just, go out and do what we wanted on a pitch.
Aye.
As in, take people on, just, Tartars was like, just go and do what you do. And it was actually, probably one of the most enjoyable periods. That kind of season was just go and play.
Have a bit of fun.
There was no, I want you to go and beat people. If you didn't beat them, go back and do it again. Keep doing it.
Aye.
Didn't stop. It was So he had to be in there.
Freedom to play football almost.
Aye.
Yeah.
But for as quiet as he was on the pitch, he had plenty to say. Training and whatever else. He's got a cheeky side to him. A lot of people didn't see.
Okay. Russell Mackay and Gordon Conley. I'm going to ask you to split the two of them and give me just one.
To be honest, they're
different. They're very different.
Russell was a complete box to box, and he could do it all. He could be in the box, and he scored a lot of goals for Elgin because he could be making that last man runs. Maybe ultimately could be making the last man challenge at the back as well.
Aye.
Goggs was totally different in the sense that he probably never moved out the centre circle.
Yep.
And it was all just 1-2s, short, sharp. And they probably blessed with the same engine as Russell, but he would hurt you just as much. Again, Russell would be different in the sense that he'd be winning headers, winning the battles. Goggs had a streak about him as well, to be fair. But he was more just on the ground, knocking it about. Yep. That's how they're two total different entities, I would say, but equally hurt you. It's bad if you've got the right players around to beat you.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first went to Forres and Goggs was still playing, he was like player manager. He was like, "You're my legs. I'll give you the ball and you can do what you do."
How good a midfield do you think the two of them would have been if they played together? Do you think they would have complemented each other?
I think they would have.
Yeah.
Because Russell could do the full length of the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
It might have probably allowed Gogs to be farther forward, if you came what I mean.
Yeah.
I suppose you'll never ken.
No,
will you?
no.
Again, the most respect you can get opposition players how much your supporters hate him, because they ken how good a player he is.
Yeah.
Any time that he came to Elgin, when I was a supporter, they hated him, but they hated him because he was a good player.
Yeah.
That's how they hate him. That's a level of respect.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sometimes it doesn't feel like it when you're playing. I can vouch for that myself. But both fantastic players.
Kyle Scott, you mentioned him a wee bit earlier on. He says you hadn't seen him before. He just kind of came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. He just came into the area because he had just obviously got a job at the academy. And the guys that was playing for us knew him. They'd been at school with him and knew he was coming into the area, and asked if he could come along training and whatever. Soon as boys seen him, we were like, physically, he's
a big lad as well, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
Again, never meet a nicer boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's, to be honest, on the pitch, he was actually too nice.
Okay.
Honestly, he'd just be near that. I think I say aggressive streak, because nobody has to have it, but ability.
Yeah.
Whether he could play, like I say, he could have played centre half one week, the next week he could have played centre mid, and the following week he could have played striker, and he could have fitted into any of those. And at a canter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He gave up playing football far, far too early, and I kept saying that to him.
When I was researching, it was 31. He gave it up. Yeah.
I think when I obviously knew him and had interactions with him at school through the kids and that, and he said he kind of work was obviously getting more prominent, but he says when set at Forres, because you had like a core of guys and then a few started to leave, he says it just wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. He didn't get the same kind of buzz, which again I get.
Yeah.
Things change. It's
no. Yeah, that's it. Circumstances change for people, and it's just not the right environment sometimes. And the football can still be good. But if their headspace is, we keep going back to this mental thing, Neil. It's
I get it.
It's
huge.
It's
absolutely.
Huge.
But I mean, for Kyle, when people say like I was a good header of ball, I'd very rarely seen him miss a header.
Aye.
Centre midfield or centre half, even up front. Mm-hmm. Just a phenomenal player. And I doubt lots of people, anybody that's played with him at Forres, will vouch for that 110%.
Yeah.
Again, another guy that could have certainly played at a much higher level. How he slipped through the net, maybe through choices, he was going to uni and whatever else, I don't know, but
yeah,
fantastic player.
I'm sorry, I missed a couple of names. It's here. It says we're going to kind of pick it apart. Neefy, and we've had Martin Perret as well before. We had a wee bit of Don McVicker on Mo's episode. Do you want to speak a wee bit about Don? Because by all accounts, a brilliant player.
Oh, he was just a brilliant person. He's just a player. Again, taken away far, far too early. Mm-hmm. I got so much out of playing alongside him. See the amount of advice, just tips. Because he played at St Johnstone and again at Park Thistle, there was no airs and graces about my tar. It would have been quite easy for him to come in and be, I'm Billy Big Ball. Again, but he was not that at all. He embraced the Hale Elgin thing. Him and Dougie Scott. Dougie was another fantastic player. He could have been in that 11. Yeah. What a left peg.
Aye.
His biggest problem was he got suspended all the time. And because he got suspended, the suspension just kept getting longer and longer.
Aye.
And he wasn't a dirty player. But if Don was just
different.
He embraced everything about Elgin. The playing side of it, about it when he came up. When he first came to Elgin, he was like, "Oh, you're far too good to be playing here. You need to be." And he got me trials at Oxford. It actually fell through because the guy that was in charge at Oxford at the time got sacked the week before it was due. Now, he organised all that and things. Yes. And there was things that was like, when you're playing, you've got to be selfish. Now, that sounds really bad to say. He says, if you're a winger, you get half a yard, you get in the box. You've done your job.
Yep.
He says it's up to them to deal with it. So they can, if you've given that half a yard, you're going to be put in the box. They can react.
Okay, yeah.
Just a different mentality. His mentality to that dressing room lifted our whole dressing room. And there wouldn't have been a player in that dressing room didn't have benefit for him being there. 110%.
Yeah.
He was that. He was. And again, when he left Elgin, I think he went Huntly when we went in the Scottish League. I'd bump into him when we stopped in Aberdeen to pick up players. He would always be asking how things were going. He would be texting, how's things going? He was that kind of guy. He was taking a personal interest. It wasn't just about. It was a bigger picture all the time.
Brilliant, fantastic. Ian Polworth. He's an interesting one because he's a name. It doesn't come up very often, but it's a name that, like, when I think back to Elgin in the 90s and that, and it's a name that comes up quite a lot for me because he scored a lot of goals and things.
If you're using him as an example at training, you would be saying he's nae what you follow at training. If there was any way to get you to running, any physical exercise, Paulie would come with he would ken the excuse, he would ken how to do it.
Yeah.
On a Saturday, just flick a switch. You put that ball in the box, he would score. Header, some of his volleys, his goal in the cup final against Cove, scissors kick, as good as a goal I've seen in all the years I played. It was just phenomenal.
Yep.
He took so much abuse in that dressing room because he used to play for Carly. And he still gets it new if we hear like a reunion. Doesn't it? The WhatsApp pages, I was full of expletives about playing for Carly this, Carly that. Yeah. Absolute nice guy. Again, was in the Highland League a long time. Was successful at Clark as well when he left Elgin.
Yes,
again, scored goals. Successful as a manager. Just again, genuine nice guy. But he was a winner.
Yeah, first and foremost. Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
off the pitch, you're going to meet nicer. On the pitch, he had that streak. Winning was everything.
Yep.
And that's where I've been lucky with the teams I've played in. There've been a lot of players like winning is everything. And if you get that instilled in your early doors,
will you leave a wee bit in on you sometimes? Like,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Best kind of players.
Best
kind of players.
He's looking after himself because he kens what for this first chance at centre half getting, he's coming right through the back of him.
Yeah,
it's leaving his mark on him. It's just what happened.
That's it. And then we'll finish off on Charlie Brown.
Like I say, he was Mr. Forres.
Yeah.
So I can say about him. For what he did for the club, goal scoring wise, you've just got to tip your hat to him. Like I say,
I think he's had every role at the club as well afterwards as well, is he not?
Literally ham roll, cheese roll, a whole lot of them. Nah. Finisher, same. Just lightning. He would still be behind me at running, but he was quick. See that first burst there, just leave defenders, and once he's left them, no chance of catching him. Just a absolute born goal scorer. And Forrest were lucky to have him at the club for as long as he did.
Yeah.
People were a wee bit better when you left to go Bucky. Me personally, I was now thinking, well, you've earned whatever you want. You've done whatever you can. Got his testimony there as well.
Yeah.
So just a finisher through and through.
I think I'd read a thing recently, and it was on one of these Highland League groups, and they were naming like the best strikers the last 20 years, and his name, Cammy Keith, and like some Molby, and that was 3 or 4 names that just kept coming up over and over and over again.
There might have been a season, I may be mistaken, he might have got Highland League Player of the Year as well. And he scored, I'm sure in that season for Forres, he scored a monumental amount of goals.
Aye.
And we weren't a top 3 or 4 team then. We were still doing things in cups and things, but we weren't pushing for league titles. No. He's still scoring a lot of goals. And
it was a lot of different type of goals as well.
A mixed bag. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic 11. Thank you for that, Neil. I really appreciate it. If people are enjoying the podcast, you know where to find us. You can find us on Spotify. Video episodes now on YouTube. You can find us on TikTok, and if you're enjoying what we're doing, you want to help us out in the podcast, you go on to buymeacoffee.com/football journals. You can buy me and Ryan a coffee and keep the podcast going. Next episode, we have Pele Patterson in the studio. So,
I was speaking to him last week. You can tell him I was asking for him.
I will do, mate. I've had a lot of good things for Pele. Like I've had people giving me quotes and all sorts of stuff. But next episode is actually a birthday episode as well, Ryan. 1 year of the Football Journals.
All right, well,
so,
happy birthday.
thank you very much. I'm surprised we've kept it going a year, but it's doing good. It's growing every week.
Good.
And continue to keep it going. Why not? Same questions always last, Neil. One penalty to save your life. Who takes the penalty?
Has that got to be a local player or?
You can have anyone.
Oh,
yeah. We've had a few Mark Letizes. We've had a few.
I was going to. Letizia would kind of be who would.
I got the question flipped on me in the last episode. I picked
Can't be mind.
I picked Andy Brema.
That's but. Koeman would be another one.
Koeman, I never thought of him.
I just think of just
yeah.
people that score lots of penalties. The obvious answers like Messi and Ronaldo.
Tavernier.
No, maybe they go that far.
So yeah, if one penalty to save your life, who you
I would
leaving?
probably go for Letizia, I think.
Letizia.
Aye.
Okay, that's a solid answer. It's got to be the most popular one so far. Okay, thank you for your time,
No,
Neil.
thank you. Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Cheers, pal.